Today's episode is wiring and welding. I've installed all the wiring in the car and I've done some welding to fix the rust and install an engine mount. I'll show you these clips right now. The first step in fixing rust is identifying where it is. You see some blisters, but that's like an iceberg. If you clean it up, it turns out it's a much bigger hole. And the same thing happened here, more or less. There was a pretty big patch. It was badly repaired. So you couldn't really see it on the upside, but on the underside there was a massive rust hole. First I start with the wire brush, take off all like the rust blisters, see what happens, if it's a big hole or not. Then I use the flap disc to prepare the surface for welding. Cut out a patch and weld in the patch, sand it off again to make it sure it's clean. Then spray, like paint it with what's it called? Paint it with Hammerite primer, which is one of the better. I can't find any Por 15 here, so I guess Hammerite primer is the second best thing. And paint it with that, then paint some black over it. Before painting it black, I put some polyurethane sealant on it, so the seams wouldn't have little. Sometimes the welding seams have little porous spots, and that can cause rust. So I put some black sealant over it, and then painted the rest of it black too. I also upgraded the engine mount. The engine mount, the standard version of the engine mount, just bolts to this hole and holds. It has like a big rubber bushing that's bolted down, and then there's a metal part that bolts on top of the bushing. This upgraded version has sideways support that pushes against these surfaces, and there's two versions of that. One version also bolts to this hole, but I have the version that comes with my engine that actually bolts down on top, where the rubber bushing sits on top of here and the engine mount hangs under it. So, and I chose to use that mount specifically so I could get aftermarket parts should I find that I need that. Because there's a lot of aftermarket parts, not specifically for this car, but specifically for the engine that's going into the car. As part of the engine swap, I had to change the plug from the engine to the car. And I took the plug from the donor car because it has more connectors and it had some extra functionality like oil temperature and stuff like that. And it's a bigger plug, but I made a silly mistake. The plug doesn't actually fit through the hole in the firewall. So instead of just pulling this plug from the inside out through the firewall, I have to stuff the entire loom from the outside in. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Okay. So now this plug is ready to plug into the engine, and these plugs take the 12 volt from the battery to the dashboard. So next up I will install the wiring loom to the front of the car, which is the wiring loom that's responsible for the lights and the cooling fan, engine cooling fan. It's pretty easy to install when you have everything off the car, because it just, snakes through a few holes. That's pretty much it. Now first up is this big plug that supposedly fits in this hole. Yeah, here we go. Like that. To make the wiring neat and tidy, I'll tie wrap it to the front of the car so it doesn't dangle down and cause problems. horn, sensor, fan, main power connection, and the fan relay, which will go here. For this ground point, the bolt broke into the nut, so somebody used this hole right next to it with a nut and a bolt. So I'm gonna redo that. Just have to sand up the connection first so it makes good contact. And then just bolt it down. Okay, that's nice and tight. This is the wheel I'll be running on this car, and as you can see, it's pretty, how do you say, hella flush. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So next up, I'll be rolling this guard out a bit so that will fit properly instead of not properly. And I was actually working on the next episode, but I spotted some more rust. So here's the rear bumper mount, what it's supposed to look like. And here's what it looks like on the other side. As you can see, this is all gone. And I was gonna hack off part of this for wheel clearance, but I do need this hole to mount the actual bumper in. So I'll have to repair at least this part. So let's do that first. Yeah, so thanks for watching. See you in the next one.